This episode is brought to you by listeners like you, the last spark of hope in a world running low on signal. You're the boost behind this mic in these static filled times. Stay tuned and stay human. Coming up in the podcast, she would have ridden off, right? And in my notes, I have that Nova can ride horse though. When I was watching it, I was like, yeah, Nova can ride horse. You know what I'm saying? Because, she doesn't have any other skills and she would have grown up in captivity. But it was just fascinating to see that she can ride a horse, though. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Yeah, that happened. You're not going to want to miss this one. Prepare for warp speed as we embark on a voyage through the vast expanse of science fiction in movies and television series. From distant planets to alien civilizations, we delve into the heart of the unknown, unraveling the tales that have captured audiences for generations. Get ready to unlock the secrets of the universe on Code Flix. Greetings, fellow sci-fi and fantasy lovers. Welcome to Code Flix, where we explore the TV shows and movies that shape our imaginations. I'm Andre Bonner, and in today's episode, we'll be looking at the movie Beneath the Planet of the Apes. Picking up right where we left off in the first movie. Taylor ventures into the Forbidden Zone and mysteriously disappears. Soon after, Nova encounters Brent, another human survivor who crash lands in the desert. This sequel dives deeper not just into the world of the apes, but into the darker sides of human nature. It's one of those films that really makes you stop and think. What would evolution look like if it had happened in just a few generations instead of over millions of years? At the same time, it explores the danger of blind belief, how dogma, when taken to the extreme, can destroy entire civilizations. A story of survival, fate, and consequence, wrapped in the strange and haunting world beneath the planet of the apes.
Beneath the Planet of the Apes is a 1970 American science fiction film directed by Ted Post from a screenplay by Paul Den, based on a story by Den and Mort Abrahams. The film is the sequel to Planet of the Apes, 1968, and the second installment in the original Planet of the Apes film series. It stars James Franciscus, Kim Hunter, Maurice Evans, and Linda Harrison, and features Charlton Heston in a supporting role. In the film, a second spacecraft arrives on the planet ruled by apes, carrying astronaut Brent, Franciscus, who searches and finds Taylor, Heston, only to realize the apes are not their greatest threat. Beneath the Planet of the Apes was released in the United States on May 26, 1970, by 20th Century Fox. The film received mixed reviews from critics. It was followed by Escape from the Planet of the Apes in 1971. Time-displaced astronaut Taylor and the mutant Nova, travel through the desert of the Forbidden Zone in search of a new life away from Ape City. Without warning, fire shoots up from the ground and chasms open. Confused by this, Taylor investigates a cliff wall and disappears through it. Unable to reach him, Nova is left alone. After being sent to search for Taylor and his crew, a second spaceship crash lands on the Forbidden Zone. Brent, the only survivor, notes he is in the year 3955, but assumes he has traveled to another planet. After burying his fellow astronaut Skipper, he encounters Nova and notices she is wearing Taylor's dog tags. Hoping Taylor is still alive, he rides with her to Ape City and is shocked to discover the simian civilization. The guerrilla General Ursus leads a rally for the apes to conquer the Forbidden Zone and use it as a potential food source, against the objections of the orangutan Dr. Zaius. Brent is wounded by a guerrilla soldier and taken by Nova to the home of the chimpanzees Cornelius and Zira, who treat his wound and mention their time with Taylor. Attempting to flee the city, Brent and Nova are captured by guerrillas. Ursus orders they be used for target practice, but Zira helps them escape. They hide in a cave that turns out to be the ruins of the Queensboro Plaza station of the New York City subway. Brent realizes he is in Earth's post-apocalyptic future. Upon hearing a humming sound deeper into the tunnels, Brent becomes agitated and erratic and attempts to kill Nova, before stopping and backing away to another room. Entering the remains of St. Patrick's Cathedral, he finds a population of telepathic humans who worship an ancient nuclear bomb. Brent and Nova are captured and interrogated by the telepaths, who are descendants of the human survivors of a nuclear holocaust. They mutated over generations and claim to be a peaceful society, despite using mind control and illusion on their enemies. The mutants force Brent into revealing the apes' march on the Forbidden Zone. Their attempts to repel the invaders with illusions of fire and other horrors fail, as Zaius sees through them. With the apes closing in, the telepaths plan to detonate their divine bomb as a last resort, holding a religious ritual. During the ritual, the telepaths remove their human masks to reveal disfigurements of sickly pale skin, scarring and vascular varicose disease. Brent is separated from Nova and taken to a cell where he finds Taylor. One mutant, explaining that they cannot let them leave the city alive for fear of revealing it to the apes, uses his telepathic powers to force Brent and Taylor to fight each other. Nova escapes her guard and runs to the cell, screaming her first spoken word, Taylor. This breaks the mutant's concentration, freeing the astronauts from his control long enough for them to kill him. Taylor recognizes the bomb's insignia as a Doomsday bomb, which has a cobalt casing capable of igniting the atmosphere and incinerating the entire planet. The apes invade the subterranean city, making their way to the cathedral. Many mutants are either captured, killed, or die by suicide. After Nova is killed by a gorilla in the midst of the chaos, Taylor and Brent reach the cathedral as Mendez, the telepath's leader, is shot dead after raising the bomb into activation position. The humans attempt to stop Ursus from accidentally setting off the weapon, but Taylor is shot in the chest while pleading to Zaius. Zaius refuses to listen and decries humanity's violence and the ruination of all things, unaware that his own apes are doing the same thing. When Brent is gunned down after killing Ursus, the mortally wounded Taylor curses Zaius, collapses and dies, bringing his hand down on the bomb's detonation switch. The bomb goes off, destroying the entire planet. Here's a detailed analysis of the themes and symbols in Beneath the Planet of the Apes, 1970, followed by a conclusion that ties them together. Themes 1. The cyclical nature of destruction. The film expands on the original's warning about humanity's self-destructive tendencies. It suggests that war and violence are cyclical. Each generation, species, or civilization inevitably repeats the mistakes of the past. The apes, like the humans before them, become obsessed with domination and control, proving that history's lessons go unheeded. 2. Religious fanaticism and misguided faith. The mutant humans' worship of the atomic bomb serves as a biting critique of blind faith and the perversion of religion. Their reverence for a weapon of mass destruction shows how belief can be twisted to sanctify annihilation. This theme reflects Cold War anxieties and questions whether faith can survive when divorced from morality. 3. Science, power, and hubris. Both ape and human societies illustrate the dangers of knowledge without wisdom. The human scientific achievements, nuclear technology, and the ape's militarism reveal parallel paths to ruin. The film critiques humanity's arrogance in assuming dominion over nature and technology without considering ethical restraint. 4. Identity, evolution, and regression. The sequel explores the blurred line between progress and regression. Humanity's remnants have devolved into psychic mutants, while apes have risen to dominance, yet neither represents true evolution. Their message is that civilization's survival depends not on intelligence or strength but on moral maturity, which both have lost. 5. Fatalism and the end of civilization. The film is steeped in existential fatalism. There's no escape from the consequences of humanity's past sins. The ultimate destruction of Earth reinforces a grim vision of destiny, where redemption comes not through salvation but through annihilation. 6. The illusion of control. Every group in the film, humans, apes, and mutants, believes it holds control over destiny. Yet all are powerless against the inevitability of destruction. The theme underscores the futility of domination in a universe indifferent to pride or ideology. Symbols 1. The Alpha-Omega Bomb. The central symbol of the film, the bomb embodies humanity's ultimate technological triumph and moral failure. As both a god and a weapon, it represents mankind's worship of its own destructive capabilities, a literal idol of apocalypse. 2. The Underground City. This remnant of human civilization symbolizes decay masked by ritual. Its cathedral-like architecture and glowing bomb altar reflect the collapse of reason into religious zealotry and the spiritual hollowness beneath technological grandeur. 3. The Forbidden Zone. A barren wasteland of ruins and illusions, it symbolizes both physical and psychological desolation, a mirror to the subconscious guilt of a species that destroyed its own world. 4. Ape Society. The stratified ape civilization mirrors human social hierarchies, militarists, scientists, and religious leaders, illustrating how every intelligent species may recreate systems of oppression and self-destruction. 5. Telepathic mutants. Their psychic powers symbolize humanity's distorted evolution, intellect divorced from empathy. Their mental superiority masks spiritual decay, showing that knowledge without compassion leads to ruin. 6. The Earth's final destruction. The detonation of the bomb becomes the ultimate symbol of judgment and rebirth, a grim cleansing of a corrupted world, echoing biblical apocalypses but devoid of divine mercy. Conclusion. Beneath the Planet of the Apes is an unflinching allegory about humanity's unending cycle of hubris and annihilation. Through its themes of fanaticism, fatalism, and the misuse of science, it portrays civilization as doomed to repeat its own downfall, no matter the species in power. The film's stark symbols, the Alpha-Omega bomb, the ruined Earth, and the hollow worship of destruction, reinforce its central warning: when power and belief are divorced from morality, evolution becomes extinction. In the end, it suggests that beneath every civilization lies the same flaw, an inability to learn from its own ashes. Here's a character analysis of Beneath the Planet of the Apes, 1970, the second film in the original Planet of the Apes series. This installment deepens the allegory of civilization, faith, and destruction, introducing new faces while evolving familiar ones. Brent, James Franciscus. Role: astronaut sent to find Taylor's missing crew, the film's human protagonist. Traits: intelligent, courageous, skeptical yet compassionate. Arc: Brent begins as a rational explorer trying to understand his new environment but gradually becomes a tragic figure ensnared in the same fate as Taylor, confronting the madness of both apes and mutated humans. His horror grows as he witnesses religious fanaticism and war, culminating in his death during the cataclysm. Themes represented: the futility of human intervention, rationality crushed by extremism, the cyclical nature of destruction. Nova, Linda Harrison. Role, mute human woman and Taylor's companion. Traits, innocent, loyal, emotionally expressive despite her silence. Arc, Nova's presence humanizes Brent and Taylor, representing pure, instinctive emotion in contrast to the intellectual posturing of both apes and mutants. Her death is symbolic, the extinction of innocence amidst ideological warfare. Themes represented. Lost humanity. The silence of compassion in a violent world. Guerrilla General Ursus, James Gregory. Role, guerrilla military leader, represents the militaristic faction of ape society. Traits, aggressive, authoritarian, zealous. Arc, Ursus embodies the rise of totalitarianism within ape civilization. His obsession with conquering the forbidden zone mirrors human imperialism and the destructive cycle of war. His downfall, dying in the chaos he unleashed, underscores the film's anti-war message. Themes represented. Militarism and conquest. Fear-driven leadership. The self-destruction of authoritarian power. Dr. Zaius, Maurice Evans. Role, ape statesman and keeper of faith and science, returning from the first film. Traits, wise, cynical, conservative, protective of ape orthodoxy. Arc, Zaius remains a figure of tragic pragmatism. He understands the dangers of humanity but chooses suppression over enlightenment. His survival at the end suggests his philosophy, control through ignorance, endures, even as the world collapses around him. Themes represented. Knowledge versus fear. Religion as control. The ethics of suppressing truth. The Mutants, led by Paul Richards as Mendez and Don Pedro Colley as Ongaro. Role, telepathic, radiation-scarred descendants of humans living underground. Traits, devout, self-righteous, deceptive under piety. Arc, the mutants worship a nuclear bomb as their god, using psychic illusion to protect their domain. Their reverence for destruction reflects the ultimate degeneration of human spirituality, faith transmuted into apocalypse. Their annihilation proves that blind worship, even of technology, leads only to ruin. Themes represented. Religion twisted by fear. Technology as deity. The collapse of moral evolution. Man #Rocket Taylor, Charlton Heston. Role, original protagonist from Planet of the Apes, reappears near the end. Traits, disillusioned, embittered, emotionally detached. Arc, Taylor returns as a man who has lost faith in both species. His final act, detonating the Doomsday bomb, symbolizes his despair and ultimate rejection of the world's cyclical violence. His death merges with humanity's final annihilation, completing his tragic descent from explorer to executioner. Themes represented. Despair and nihilism. The futility of redemption. Humanity's final self-destruction. Here's a character analysis of Beneath the Planet of the Apes, 1970, the second film in the original Planet of the Apes series. This installment deepens the allegory of civilization, faith, and destruction, introducing new faces while evolving familiar ones. Brent, James Franciscus. Role, astronaut sent to find Taylor's missing crew, the film's human protagonist. Traits, intelligent, courageous, skeptical yet compassionate. Arc, Brent begins as a rational explorer trying to understand his new environment but gradually becomes a tragic figure ensnared in the same fate as Taylor, confronting the madness of both apes and mutated humans. His horror grows as he witnesses religious fanaticism and war, culminating in his death during the cataclysm. Themes represented. The futility of human intervention. Rationality crushed by extremism. The cyclical nature of destruction. Nova, Linda Harrison. Role, mute human woman and Taylor's companion. Traits, innocent, loyal, emotionally expressive despite her silence. Arc, Nova's presence humanizes Brent and Taylor, representing pure, instinctive emotion in contrast to the intellectual posturing of both apes and mutants. Her death is symbolic, the extinction of innocence amidst ideological warfare. Themes represented: lost humanity, the silence of compassion in a violent world. Guerrilla General Ursus, James Gregory. Role: guerrilla military leader, represents the militaristic faction of ape society. Traits: aggressive, authoritarian, zealous. Arc: Ursus embodies the rise of totalitarianism within ape civilization. His obsession with conquering the forbidden zone mirrors human imperialism and the destructive cycle of war. His downfall, dying in the chaos he unleashed, underscores the film's anti-war message. Themes represented: militarism and conquest, fear-driven leadership, the self-destruction of authoritarian power. Dr. Zaius, Maurice Evans. Role: ape statesman and keeper of faith and science, returning from the first film. Traits: wise, cynical, conservative, protective of ape orthodoxy. Arc: Zaius remains a figure of tragic pragmatism. He understands the dangers of humanity but chooses suppression over enlightenment. His survival at the end suggests his philosophy, control through ignorance, endures, even as the world collapses around him. Themes represented: knowledge versus fear, religion as control, the ethics of suppressing truth. The Mutants, led by Paul Richards as Mendez and Don Pedro Colley as Ongaro. Role: telepathic, radiation-scarred descendants of humans living underground. Traits: devout, self-righteous, deceptive under piety. Arc: the mutants worship a nuclear bomb as their god, using psychic illusion to protect their domain. Their reverence for destruction reflects the ultimate degeneration of human spirituality, faith transmuted into apocalypse. Their annihilation proves that blind worship, even of technology, leads only to ruin. Themes represented: religion twisted by fear, technology as deity, the collapse of moral evolution. Man #Rocket Taylor, Charlton Heston. Role: original protagonist from Planet of the Apes, reappears near the end. Traits: disillusioned, embittered, emotionally detached. Arc: Taylor returns as a man who has lost faith in both species. His final act, detonating the Doomsday bomb, symbolizes his despair and ultimate rejection of the world's cyclical violence. His death merges with humanity's final annihilation, completing his tragic descent from explorer to executioner. Themes represented: despair and nihilism, the futility of redemption, humanity's final self-destruction.
These are my personal insights and interpretations of Beneath the Planet of the Apes, including some of the favorite moments and characters. So in the opening of the film, we get a recap basically of the ending of Planet of the Apes, right? Where we see Taylor and Nova, they ride away from Ape City into the Forbidden Zone, right? Again, we see that nice little shot with, Charlton Heston, you maniacs, and then it proceeds into the Forbidden Zone. So, you know that he is on a quest for answers, because he might try to understand now that he knows the truth, that he was on Earth all along. What happened, and how did it come to this? We get a new arrival in this movie, Brent. So we meet up with a new astronaut and his skipper, right? The crash land in the desert near the Forbidden Zone, right? We see where the skipper seemed to have lost his sight and, he's under some severe injury and things. So he definitely was out of it, right? He dies shortly and Brent is left alone and definitely confused. Him knows him come through some kind of space anomaly, but he's not sure which planet he's on, obviously, right? And he wants to get some contact to Earth in some way, but of course that now work out for him because the spaceship basically mash up. Of course, we remember Nova. She ends up coming back and finding Brent, right? So what had happened? We get to see that now where she and Brent they're there, and Brent I try to get her to talk, and him doesn't understand that even though she looks human, she is not the human that you can, talk to, right? Because she doesn't know how to talk, right? She never learned. And so it leads to this flashback, this basically like a memory of what happened. And we see where Nova would have been sent off by Taylor because him encounter something weird out in the Forbidden Zone, right? And that weirdness, make him say, Nova, if anything happen, just find Zero, right? You remember Zero, the one of the chimpanzee, the ape scientist. She is there and stuff. In, so she would have ridden off, right? And in my notes, I have that Nova can ride horse though. When I was watching it, I was like, yeah, Nova can ride horse. You know what I'm saying? Because, she doesn't have any other skills and she would have grown up in captivity. But it was just fascinating to see that she can ride a horse though. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Anyways, Taylor disappears on her, and so she meets up with Brent. And so, based on the fact that she was wearing the dog tags that Taylor had, because Taylor gave it to her, right? That she knows Taylor, and so he asked her, even though she hasn't said anything to him yet and stuff, but he's trying to get some answers and thing, and so he feel like so she might understand because the fact that she can ride a horse probably at some baser level or instinct she understands what he's trying to say to her or what he's asking her to do. Anyways, she end up taking Trent back to Ape City where they look from afar basically to try and survey what's going on because, Brent is a little bit cautious and he sees the apes talking, right? Gorillas, chimpanzees, orangutans. They're all there conversing. General Ursus rally him ape troops, right? And I'm a call for invasion of the Forbidden Zone because them find out what had happened with Taylor and them say, if, because it was the whole idea that they had from the previous film where they thought that this type of human being, because he can talk, right? He is not the regular human being and he must be from somewhere afar, They don't understand how far he might come from, but yes, they believe that because he's coming from the, somewhere far, he might be coming from the Forbidden Zone. It's just like thinking, hey, how those natives felt when, Christopher Columbus landed on their shores. Of course, they didn't have anything to say after that because he slaughtered them, right? But yeah, it's something that we can't forget, this bit of history portrayed in a movie to show that, hey, man going into another humans or apes city, and judging them based on their attire or what they think, and then using that as an excuse to treat them differently. And we can see that in the way how General Ursus is calling for war and him go invade, right? And Dr. Zayas, him not really into it, right? Dr. Zayas, as you remember, would have been the scientist from the previous film, right? The ape scientist, the orangutan. And he doesn't really like the idea that this is happening, but he wants to go because he has to be there as the face of this the scientific side of it. And in a sense, in a way, he's trying to guide the expedition, I think. And that's something else I can talk about when I talk about the theories, right? But yeah, they witness all of this, the Ians them a chant, glory to the divine lawgiver, because they have the divine lawgiver that they have, and them preparing for war, them basically have combat drills and all sort of stuff, just like, when, war is about to happen and you command your military to get ready. This is so mirroring reality right now, right? When a president can say that he's going to send troops into a city in his very own place to train for war, right? Why didn't we see this? These movies are there, books have written about these things. Why haven't we seen the signs? I guess we have been a little bit slow. We've been distracted by so many things. Anyways, getting back to the movie, Brent is captured, right? This is after he would have talked to Zira and her husband, right? And I laugh about him because, Zira husband, sometimes I wonder if he, he have a backbone, as an ape, as a chimpanzee, because he's like, Zira always a try for us tell him say, hey, we can't do this and thing, and him just very, cautious, overly cautious at times, and trying to get her to fall into the party line, and keep the peace, basically, you know. In a way, you can understand. He's trying to not put them in a position where they become pariahs totally, and nobody don't want to deal with them, and them don't have them status that can save them, right? But him not wanting to step up with her, to me, just signal a red flag, when you have a union like that. But yeah, we're talking about Planet of the Apes, guys. But yes, that is what it is. So yes, so after that, as I mentioned, Brent and Nova, they would have been captured because them get horse now, and they get on the way. They get to ride out and stuff and thing, right? Again, trying to find Taylor, but some soldiers see them on the way and thing, and them shoot the horse and them fly out for the horse, and they end up getting captured. Right? They are taken to some little camp where they basically are prepared staging area for them war and stuff and invasion, and they were about to be utilized in the most brutal of way because Zira now, when she recognized that Brent come back, she try to save him now. She say, no, you can't. Can I have this one, basically? Because I want to experiment on him and the lady, the girl, Nova. And the man come in, basically the ape come in and say, hey, no, these two, them already marked for target practice. You know what I'm saying? Which mean, basically death, because they're gonna, you know, practice on them until them literally pass away. Yeah. So she saves them. At the last minute, she got one of the keys that they used to lock them in the back of the pull cart, and she unlocks it and allows them to be able to escape. So they eventually escape and they find themselves again being pursued, but this time they may be able to pop the patrol that was out there, and escape. They escape into into a cavern, right, which leads underground, and this would have been in the forbidden zone now, right? So when them find themselves underground, Brent him start look around and him realize say these underground caverns don't look like normal underground caverns. They look man-made, right? They're actually in the subways. And if you know a little bit about geology, after erosion has taken place, that's how a place is going to typically look. If you watch a film, you see how it looks, and I have to give the production team props for this because I'm telling you, that moment when he uncovers a piece of text on the wall that says telephone, right? That I missed that the first time I watched Beneath the Planet of the Apes, and is upon, rewatch, I realized, wait, that was there, and he saw that, and then he went again and he saw a sign that said "Welcome to New York" or something to that effect. And of course, that is when it dawned on him that they were actually on Earth, and this is his home. And in utter basically the same sentiment with Taylor utter. My God, they did it. So while this is happening, while they're hiding out and the apes are outside looking for them and things, can't find them, there's a peaceful protest. And I must highlight this in the film. There's a peaceful protest that's going on by the chimpanzees because, them say, this is going on and thing, and they're like, why we have to be, using force and war and all of that, and them sign, and you can literally see the mirroring of reality and the way how they are protesting peacefully. And General Ursus was like, him dog already for shoot them or for harm them. And Dr. Zeus was like, no, you can't do that because you're gonna make them martyrs. It's not that I wouldn't want you to do that, but you're gonna make them into martyrs, and if you make them into martyrs, that is worse than anything else you can do. So they imprison them, right? Take them up one by one and them imprison them and thing, and if you hear them, like them say, you can't imprison us and all that. Yeah, I'm telling you, this film is. I'm gonna stop saying that. You guys be the judge. Comment in the comments. Let me know how you perceive this film. If you're seeing the writing on the wall, the literal writings of our current position in history, let me know in the comments. Right. So, of course, because Brent realized that the apes are on their tail and thing, and it's not safe because they're basically very, very close now to finding a way to access the same cavern that they're in. So they move from the location that they are, right, in Manova, and they proceed further through the subway systems to find themselves in a area that basically mirrors like a city street, because you had like a bus that was, partially covered in sediment and thing, because over years, when that happens, you can see it does have that effect, right? And again, that is pretty good, right? And then find, other artifacts basically that suggest that this was in the middle of a city, right? The ruins them that are there, right? We'll be right back after these messages. I didn't start this podcast for glory or for profit. There's no God behind this microphone, just a man shouting into the void, hoping someone's still listening. If you found this signal, it means there's still curiosity left in the world. Share it with another survivor of reason, someone who will still believe in thought, in story, in sci-fi. Leave a comment. Let me know the human voice isn't extinct yet. Every listen, every follow, it's another spark in the ashes of a broken world. Maybe, just maybe, if enough of us keeps listening, we won't end up like them. Now, as they find themselves even further in, Brent starts to hear a hum, right? Which apparently even Nova can hear, right, from her reaction. And he's like, you can hear it too, And them follow the hum, right? And the hum is like one of those engine hums. And so, they keep following it because, of course, it's a sign of civilization. It's first sign of civilization that you can notice when you're on a planet that you haven't recognized, but till now they never realized it was Earth, right? And so, they proceed further. They've come upon a ladder kind of thing, and as Brent put him hand on it, the home stop. Take off him hand, it start again. And so he realized, say, there is something that is guiding them to where they're going. And when Nova even try if he, like Shago come with him, he's like he must say, no, don't come with me. Anyways, they end up going, climbing up, reach into this location where they see a fountain, right? And in my notes here, I have Brent should have known better than to taste the water, right? Because it did look very undrinkable to me. Man, not lie. When I looked at how it had all those particles, very obvious, right? And Brent taste it and have to spit it up same time, right? They walk away from the fountain, and as they walk away from the fountain, so it starts spring up with water. And this time the water is clean, right? Which parallels something from the Bible, right? Now, when Nova get for taste now and she dives into it, all of a sudden, Brent takes her and starts to push her into the water, right? The man was literally possessed, right? And it was the sign that something was controlling him, right? And at that point, I'm thinking to myself, what could have happened to Brent? Now, he end up fighting it a little bit and being able to pull himself away. So he ends up towards the door that is two double doors, right? Of the entrance to a cathedral, basically. And he goes in. And when he goes in, you can see, yes, inside looks almost like a church, It's a ruins thing, right? So it's not gonna necessarily look have every bells and whistle. And so we also see something very strange though in what appears to be like a sanctuary that they have. It appears to be a nuclear warhead and an inscription that reads with the symbol for Alpha and Omega. So now we know there is an alpha and an omega atomic bomb underneath the planet of the apes. So this moment in the cathedral with Brent is quite crazy because what happened is that we see a man, right, standing, his back turned to Brent, and he's there, and you can obviously see that he is, deep in reverence and prayer. And we hear him, right? Brent also hears him. When him turn around now, no mouth, no move, no nothing, and Brent is able to hear the man in his head, basically, asking him some questions and so on. And Brent is very much confused because he might try to figure out how him mouth now move, but he might hear him. Anyways, they take him. He's taken by two humans who come and take him back through the cathedral door, and they take him to basically like a council, and that council has been watching him basically for the whole time. Them have some kind of visual display, I guess, and not all of them, they're able to speak telepathically, right? So they are interrogating Brent because they want to know a lot about the apes, because apparently the apes pose a very big challenge to them. And apparently they have been awaiting that information for them to be able to prepare for what they need to do. If it comes to it, they'll use their almighty holy bomb. Yeah, and that's the words that they used, right? As they try to get Brent to answer, and Brent never in the mood for answer, right? Them show him Taylor, and then them show him say, them have complete control of him by getting Nova to come, and him basically almost strangling Nova to death again. So yet again, he's, almost try and control himself as best as possible, but apparently their minds are so strong, he can't resist them. So one of the things I don't understand is, how they are there, and at that point it felt like more than anything else they were afraid of the apes, and they had no other alternative. Basically the bomb was it, right? How them reach in a situation there, yeah, that's probably in another one of the movies, but stay tuned for that. Anyways, so them threaten Brent, basically telling him that, hey, they don't inflict pain, they use their weapons for peace. Yeah. So after they finish with Brent and stuff, but at the same time, the apes are heading into the forbidden zone. Yeah. The apes are given some visions and stuff, similar to how they use visions to confuse Taylor. But the apes aren't deterred. Not for long. At first, they were scared because they saw their holy lawgiver was bleeding from the eyes. And, there is some symbolism there, and I don't know if anybody knows what that is, but yes, let me know. And of course, Dr. Zayas, him there, as a man of science, he must say something not too right with this, a ape of science, and him push forward without everybody else. Him leave General Ursus and go up in the illusion. And when the illusion came down, he was unharmed. And so he proclaimed that, hey, that was an illusion. That was a trick of the eye. Yeah. And so the apes marched into the city, the underground city. So they had taken Brent into their temple, basically the cathedral of the Holy Bomb. And when he arrived, you know, them have him dressed up in stuff and things. So when he was there and seeing them how they are, you know, in their ritual and stuff, and at one point they're like, I reveal my true self unto my God. And when they said that, they took off their human mask face. And that is when we realize the truth, that they were mutants. And you know, at one point I was thinking to myself, say, oh, them they're so near to the atomic bomb, or them not use any protective equipment. But now I realize that it would have been a case where they have mutated and thus, you know, like any other mutant, you know, it's not like X-Men, you know. Yeah. The difference here is that everybody does get one, you know, particular talent. They can telepathically do things. They can use telekinesis and so on. But yeah, after Brent witnessed all of this, you know, in my mind, I'm just thinking, you know, him not understand how them can pray to a warhead, an atomic bomb. And I mean, it's just that whole scene in the cathedral, it was just eerily familiar because it was something that you could look at and mirror it to reality to say, this is how some people behave. They use the fact that they are religious in a certain way as a front to do the most treacherous and evil things. Because them activate the bomb, you know, ready for deploy it and stuff. Right? And send away everybody, you know, tell them say, this is it. Basically, you know, it's almost like the Kool-Aid cult, if you remember that cult that guy did, where, well, there are lots of them that do the Kool-Aid thing. But hey, you know, if you look it up, you'll find at least one of them that talks about what happens. But basically, them send everybody to them quarters, right, to basically die. That's what's gonna happen, right? They know that's what's gonna happen, right? Because them know, say, once the bomb goes off, nobody's gonna survive. So, you know, and you have kids, you know, and women and children there, you know, but they're all basically okay with it. And Brent is like, you know, how just thinking, you know, how can they be okay with it? And one of them who was carrying him to the cell, you know, tell him, say, you know, this is what it is now, you know, this is where we are. We know, so this is what it is, right? So we don't really care about what you think of us. And then him carry him to Taylor. Him see Taylor in the cell, and he's like, yeah, you know, you're all right, you know, with them do to you and thing. And the same man stand up outside I cell, I watch them, you know. That thing said, the man gone when time, you know, gone about in business, you know, but he stand up there watch them. And then he's like, you know, we don't do anything to our enemies. They do it to themselves. And him just make the two of them fight. And it is a bloody battle, you know, because at one point I see Taylor fling Brent up against one wall, Lacy man, and the wall broke, you know. And you can see say Brent can't the Brent forget up back, you know. But it is Nova who saves that scene because Nova is passing by them carry her somewhere, I guess. Them probably carrying her to one of the other cells them somewhere. And she hears perhaps what is going on, and she runs away from the guy. I don't know if the guy never hold on and her and he realize what's going on. And she runs away and she reaches to where the cell is. And she see what go on, and you can see the fury in her face and thing like she want to do something, but she can't. And so she realizes the only thing she can do is to say something, and she just say, Taylor. I mean, that part of it was a very key moment. And when she said it's almost like Taylor snapped out of it, but really and true, it's not like he snapped out of it. She distracted the man who was controlling both of them, and long enough time for Taylor to be able to snap out and to, get control of the guy and come in, box him down and thing. And take nothing in box him down like but two licking game and in gone flatter ground, right? And basically, this was the end for him and thing, Praise be to the bomb and the holy firelight. Yeah, that's all part of their prayer, right? But like the apes now, they are in the city, right? And so, chaos, everybody, run up and down, the people that were there. Some of the persons on the council, them basically drink poison because when they meet one of the ladies, them the lady, the blonde lady, if you watch the film, you know what I'm talking. She lies dead, and we can see a vial that she used, right? Now, as Taylor and Nova and Brent, they try to find a way to that area where, because Taylor, through Brent, and find out that them have an atomic bomb, and him tell him what kind of symbol upon it, so him know say the Alpha Omega bomb, which is the Doomsday bomb, right? Which means say everything done, So they go to the temple, right? Where them see the apes, them already infiltrate and thing, and the mafia try to find a way around things. The apes them decide so them going to take down the bomb, right? Like literally, pull it down and stuff and thing. And they try to find a way to distract them away from what they're doing. A firefight ensues as well, and Brent suffers was one of the casualties, and then later Taylor, But Taylor's final act, is to trigger the bomb, and he presses the button, and of course, that is basically the end. And then we get the narrator who delivers the chilling closing line. In one of the countless billions of galaxies in the universe lies a medium-sized star, and one of its satellites, a great and insignificant planet, is now dead. Yeah. So that means everybody get wiped out, ape and humankind. Here are some theories about unresolved mysteries and some plot points. So, obviously, the nuclear war allegory is definitely spot on, right? Because the mutant telepathic humans, they worship a nuclear bomb, right? And for them, it represents how humanity's selfless act, but to us, we understand it is the self-destructive potential, right? Obviously, it was a clear Cold War era warning, because at the time, but what we're going to call this particular point in history, they got to have a name for it. Yeah. I'm not going to coin it because I don't know, what the effect of coining it will be. But yes, that is what it is. And we can see there's a cycle of violence and inevitable destruction because the apes, the desire to conquer the forbidden zone, even though they know nothing about the forbidden zone and they don't understand why it's forbidden in the first place, right? Now, the humans now they have a fanatical defense, right? And this would reflect that kind of cyclical violence, right? Which empathizes how you have a great hubris with power and a mutual destruction, right? Because they were assured basically that nothing will survive and they know neither they nor their foe. They don't care how it comes out. And we can't forget Taylor's role, right? He ends up being a tragic hero, right? I honestly felt like, there should have been a way for him to miss that train, right? But it also brings a lot of weight to the film and it also makes it much more interesting, right? And it impacts the series overall, the series of films, because, now it's not dependent upon just one man, right? And we can see that one man is flawed in himself because he could have decided not to go about the way that he went about doing things, right? Because when him see how things was going, initially you can hear him saying that, hey, this is it. Them deserve what them deserve. And then, to have it happen to him, and for him to be that trigger, the planet was doomed. The planet was doomed. Anyway, so here are some of the unresolved mysteries and some questions. So, obviously, the origins of the telepathic humans. I've hinted at this, right? So, the film hints that the mutant humans are descendants of nuclear survivors, but it does not explain their evolution or how them actually acquired those mental powers. It could have gone into it a little bit, what I'm saying, even if it's a little backstory or something, something told, a fairy story or something, yeah. And then there's the nature of the forbidden zone. Why is it that the apes forbid it in the first place, right? Perhaps because it was radioactive, right? Or it was because of the mutant threat. So it all depends on which one was the greater threat at the time. And perhaps it was both. Perhaps it's a myth that started because of the radiation, right? Nothing can grow there. Nothing can thrive there, right? And then eventually, when the mutants their powers begin to manifest, then they were able to keep, unsuspecting apes out of that area, And then lastly, the aftermath and continuity. And of course, this is all about how this film ends. And because it is a series, obviously, there is no theory or plot point that can necessarily top anything we haven't spoken about so far, right? So the apocalypse ending, it leaves no survivors, right? Based on what we see. So what happens in the subsequent films will either have to be, and I'm talking as if I haven't watched those, I have, but I'm going to kind of just give you an idea of what to expect. It would have to be something that Hollywood does a lot, right? With series like this. Find a way to one up themselves, find a way to tell the story. Perhaps they could start from the beginning. I'm just saying, I'm not telling you that's going to happen, but if you have watched and are planning to watch this Planet of the Apes series, I suggest you continue, and you can comment and let me know when you want me to give my analysis and theories on these follow-up films. So remember, share your favorite Beneath the Planet of the Apes moments or theories. Drop them in the comments. So in this episode, we looked at Beneath the Planet of the Apes, Dark Secrets in a Ruined World. And in looking at this film, you might have heard me mention several times that of all the films and TV shows that I've done so far, this one is so spot on to what is currently happening in our history at that present day of this recording. And if we don't try to make a difference by doing what we need to do, calling things out as they are, and not allowing them to get away with what they're doing, then we won't have a future, neither for ourselves nor for our children. So it's important that we continue to stand up and make our voices heard, because at the end of the day, we are going to be the ones who have to live in this world. And even if we plan to hop off the ride tomorrow, there will still be others who would have to live and carry on. So it's better to make it better, even if it is only for a little while. Make someone's day better, much more brighter. That is it. Our quest through the universe of sci-fi television continues, and the next great milestone awaits. 2,000 downloads. Your support is the force that fuels this journey. Share, follow, and let your voice echo through the stars. Until we meet again, may wonder light your path, and curiosity be your guide. This content is CAN credentialed, which means you can report instances of harassment, abuse, or other harm on their hotline at 617-249-4255 or on their website at creatoraccountabilitynetwork.org.